Welcome everyone and thank you for joining us today as we dive deep into one of the most fascinating stories in the world of coin collecting, a journey that takes us into the history, errors, mistakes, and possibilities that surround the 1986 1-cent coin, a small piece of copper-plated zinc that under normal circumstances is worth just a penny, but in rare and extraordinary cases has been valued at a staggering $23 million, and in this exploration we will not only talk about what makes this coin so remarkable but also why collectors and historians alike have come to see it as one of the most intriguing coins in modern American minting history. So sit back and get ready because this is more than just a story of a single coin, it is a reflection of how errors, mishaps, and anomalies can transform an ordinary everyday object into a priceless artifact that tells a larger story about the era it was minted in, the technology that produced it, and the collectors who would one day treasure it. And to understand why the 1986 1-cent coin has captured such attention, we need to first think about the context of that year. The mid-1980s was a period of transition in American coinage. The penny had only a few years earlier undergone a massive change in composition. In 1982, the U.S. Mint shifted from the traditional copper penny to a copper-plated zinc design. This meant that most pennies after 1982 contained only a thin copper coating over a primarily zinc base, and that switch created new possibilities for minting mistakes and errors, because the difference in density, weight, and behavior of the metals introduced new complications. So when 1986 pennies were struck, several errors could occur, ranging from planchet flaws to die cracks, doubled dies, off-center strikes, and plating bubbles, all of which could elevate the value of a single coin if discovered. And in the numismatic world, collectors are constantly searching for those special anomalies, because while billions of pennies are minted every year, only a tiny handful will contain mistakes that make them stand apart, and when you combine rarity with condition and historical significance, you get the recipe for a coin that could fetch millions. Now when we speak of the 1986 penny being worth as much as $23 million, we are talking about the most extreme, rarest versions of this coin. Coins that have certain combinations of errors that defy normal expectations. For example, one of the most well-known types of penny errors is the doubled die, where parts of the design appear double due to a mistake in the hubbing process. If a 1986 penny was struck with a double die on the obverse showing Lincoln's profile with a ghostly secondary image, or on the reverse where the Lincoln memorial details appear doubled, that coin could instantly become a prize. But when you add in additional factors like off-center strikes, broad strikes, or even wrong planchet errors where a penny might have been mistakenly struck on a foreign coin blank, you create layers of rarity that multiply the potential value astronomically. And this is where the story of the $23 million penny takes shape, because numismatics thrives on combinations of rarity, historical context, and collector demand, and in this case the 1986 penny brings together multiple forces. Now let's imagine a scenario. Suppose a 1986 penny was struck not on a zinc planchet but on an experimental copper blank that somehow was left over from the transition era of 1982. A penny like that would not only be technically an off-metal strike but also a relic of minting history that shouldn't exist. Combine that with an error like a double strike or dramatic off-center strike where Lincoln's portrait is partially missing but still recognizable, and you now have a coin that is unique in the world, and in the auction world uniqueness drives prices into the millions. This is how such coins move from being curiosities to being centerpieces of multi-million-dollar collections, and beyond just errors, condition plays a huge role. Because while many 1986 pennies have been spent, circulated, and worn down, the few that remain in mint state condition, preserved with full luster and sharp details, become all the more valuable. And when you add an error onto such a coin, you reach the highest possible valuations. Collectors dream about such finds, because they are so rare that entire lifetimes can pass without ever holding one. And yet the stories of discoveries remind us that they are out there, waiting in change jars, old boxes, and forgotten coin rolls. The possibility itself excites the imagination, because anyone could theoretically stumble upon a fortune in the form of a penny. Now consider plating errors. One of the key issues with the copper-plated zinc pennies of the mid-1980s is that the thin copper coating sometimes bubbled, peeled, or failed to adhere properly, and in extreme cases this created dramatic visual distortions. Imagine a 1986 penny with large copper bubbles across Lincoln's face, or peeling that reveals the silvery zinc underneath. Coins with such dramatic plating issues can be incredibly desirable, and when combined with other strike errors, their rarity compounds, making them essentially one-of-a-kind. And one-of-a-kind coins are where we start talking about figures like $23 million, because collectors are not just buying a coin, they are buying history, rarity, and bragging rights. They are securing a place in the numismatic record books, And let's not forget the cultural element. The idea that something as ordinary as a penny could secretly be worth more than a mansion is a story that captures people's imagination across the world. News stories, articles, and viral videos about valuable coins continually renew interest in these small treasures. And each time a headline announces a penny sold for millions, more people begin checking their pocket change, creating a ripple effect of curiosity and excitement. And the 1986 penny fits perfectly into that narrative, because while most are worth a single cent, the rarest examples carry extraordinary value. And in discussing why this coin could be worth $23 million, we should also consider die cracks and cuds, errors where the minting die itself develops breaks or flaws, which then appear on the coin as raised lines, blobs, or missing design elements, a dramatic die break across Lincoln's head or a large cut obliterating part of the Lincoln Memorial could transform a penny into a dramatic error piece, and collectors especially love dramatic visible errors because they are obvious even to untrained eyes, making them both accessible and rare. And then there are off-metal strikes, some of the rarest errors in coin collecting, and if a 1986 penny was mistakenly struck on a dime planchet, a nickel planchet, or even on a foreign coin blank, that would make it not just an error but a true minting oddity. And such oddities are the cornerstone of million-dollar valuations, and if one such example combined pristine condition, eye-catching visual error, and a unique backstory, the auction houses could easily see bidding wars driving the price into tens of millions, which is why it is entirely plausible for a 1986 penny to achieve the legendary $23 million figure. And to fully appreciate this, we should think about the collectors themselves, wealthy individuals, institutions, and museums who compete for ownership of these treasures. To them a coin like this is more than money, it is legacy, it is owning a piece of American history, a symbol of chance and imperfection preserved in metal, and for that they are willing to pay extraordinary sums. And when that kind of demand meets true rarity, the sky is the limit. And while many might find it unbelievable that a penny could command such value, history shows us countless examples where coins once thought ordinary went on to break records, from the 1943 copper penny to the 1955 double die, and even experimental strikes from the 1970s, each time proving that the minting process is not infallible and that mistakes, when preserved, become priceless. And so the story of the 1986 penny is not just about metal and minting, it is about the unpredictable nature of value itself, how human desire, history, and error converge to create something worth far more than its face value. And perhaps the greatest allure of all is that anyone, absolutely anyone, might stumble upon one, tucked in a drawer, hiding in an old piggy bank, or slipping through fingers at a yard sale. And the excitement of possibility keeps people searching, keeps collectors passionate, and keeps stories like the $23 million penny alive. And as we wrap up this deep dive into the fascinating tale of the 1986 1-cent coin and why it could be worth such an unimaginable amount, we hope you've enjoyed exploring the errors, mistakes, and possibilities that make it so valuable. So make sure to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more incredible stories from the world of coins and collectibles, because you never know, the next $1 million discovery might just be sitting in your pocket right now. Next. Today we are going to unravel the incredible story of the 2017 1-cent coin, a coin that on the surface looks like nothing more than a modern penny but has shocked collectors and historians alike because certain rare examples of this coin have been valued at up to $4 million due to their extraordinary errors, mistakes, and unique minting anomalies that have made them some of the most sought-after modern coins in recent history. And throughout this journey we are going to explore not just what makes this coin valuable but also the wider context of why errors happen, how collectors interpret them, the possibilities of hidden varieties that could be sitting unnoticed in change jars across the country, and the sheer thrill of realizing that something as small and ordinary as a single cent could hold the potential to change someone's life forever. And before we get into the deep details, let us start by understanding the backdrop of the 2017 penny itself, because this was a landmark year in U.S. coinage history, since it marked the very first time in over 200 years of minting that the Philadelphia Mint placed its identifying mint mark, P, on a 1-cent coin, a detail that on its own was historically significant because traditionally the Philadelphia Mint never used a mint mark on its pennies, making this the first cent in American history to bear that little P on the obverse under the date and instantly setting it apart from billions of other cents struck throughout the decades. And because of this change, collectors immediately began paying closer attention to 2017 pennies, which also meant that any errors or unusual features stood out even more sharply and were preserved by sharp-eyed enthusiasts rather than being lost in circulation. And here lies the heart of the story, because within these billions of coins struck, Rare errors emerged that, combined with the historical significance of the P mint mark, transformed a tiny piece of copper-plated zinc into something valued in the millions. So what kind of mistakes are we talking about? Let's take a look at the most dramatic examples. First, we have double die obverse errors, where Lincoln's profile or the date or even the mint mark itself appears doubled under magnification. A striking effect that can range from subtle to extreme, and in cases where the doubling is bold and visible to the naked eye, collectors are willing to pay astronomical sums, with rumors of certain 2017 P doubled die obverse pennies selling for hundreds of thousands in private sales and even climbing into the millions if the doubling is considered unique and sharply defined. Then we have off-center strikes, which occur when the coin blank is not properly seated in the coining press, so the design is struck off balance, sometimes only slightly, but in dramatic examples showing Lincoln's head only partially on the coin with huge blank areas remaining. And these extreme off-center strikes, especially with a full clear date and mint mark, are incredibly rare and could easily propel a coin into the $1,000,000 category, since the 2017 P penny already has historical weight behind it. Next, we consider broad strike errors, where the retaining collar that keeps the coin perfectly round fails and the coin spreads out wider than normal, producing a distorted, oversized penny that immediately catches attention and in pristine condition could be worth a fortune. Moving further, there are clipped planchet errors, where a portion of the coin blank is missing before the strike, creating a crescent-shaped gap along the rim, which collectors prize for both its visual appeal and its rarity. And of course, the 2017 P penny is known to exist with such clips, making those examples highly valuable. But perhaps the most thrilling possibilities are transitional errors and experimental planchet mistakes. For instance, if even a small handful of 2017 P pennies were accidentally struck on leftover blanks from another denomination, such as a dime planchet, or on the wrong metal composition, those coins would be virtually priceless, with experts suggesting values well above several $1,000,000 due to their combination of rarity, historical significance, and the sheer shock factor of discovery. And then we must also consider die cracks, die breaks, and cuds, which are caused by the gradual deterioration of the coining dies used in mass production. These flaws result in raised lines or blobs of extra metal across the coin's surface that collectors sometimes nickname things like spiked head or cracked skull varieties. And when these errors appear in dramatic forms on the already special 2017 P penny, they become instantly collectible. And now let's dig deeper into why collectors place such astronomical values on coins like this, because while the intrinsic value of the metal is barely worth 1 cent, the combination of rarity, demand, historical context, and error quality creates a perfect storm of desirability. For one, the 2017 P penny was struck in honor of the U.S. Mint's 225th anniversary, so the Mint deliberately placed the P mint mark on the coin for the first and only time in history as a commemorative gesture, making it a one-year-only type coin and immediately giving it a collectible status even in its normal form. And once you add in the possibility of high-grade examples certified by grading services like PCGS or NGC, the stakes rise dramatically, because a flawless mint State 70 coin with an error can fetch sums that seem unreal. And collectors also factor in the element of chance, because errors by nature are not predictable or replicable. They happen randomly and are often destroyed before leaving the mint, so the very few that escape become like treasures in the wild, fueling bidding wars among collectors who want to own a piece of numismatic history. And while some skeptics might say $4 million for a penny is unbelievable, when you consider the record prices paid for other error coins, such as the 1955 double die cent, the 1943 copper cent, or the 2000 Sacagawea dollar mule error, suddenly the idea does not seem so far-fetched, because history has shown time and again that collectors are willing to pay whatever it takes for uniqueness. And what adds even more fuel to the fire is the possibility that right now, sitting in jars, drawers, pockets, or change machines across the country, there could be countless undiscovered 2017 P error pennies just waiting to be found, meaning that ordinary people could stumble upon a life-changing coin without even realizing it. And imagine the thrill of checking your change one day and noticing a doubling in the date, or an off-center strike so dramatic it takes your breath away, and realizing you might be holding a multimillion-dollar treasure in your hand. This thrill of discovery is what drives the coin collecting hobby and why so many people are fascinated by stories like this, because it proves that extraordinary value can hide in plain sight. And as we continue unraveling the mysteries of the 2017 P penny, we must also acknowledge the meticulous work of error specialists who catalog and study every variation, documenting die varieties, cataloging minor doubling, listing repunched mint marks, and distinguishing between machine doubling and true hub doubling to separate common flaws from truly valuable rarities. And in doing so, they preserve the knowledge for future generations and ensure that coins like the 2017 error penny will continue to inspire fascination for decades to come. And this leads us into another interesting possibility, which is that as time passes, the rarity of these coins will only increase because more examples are lost to circulation, damaged, or overlooked, making pristine survivors even more desirable. And the market for rare coins continues to grow globally, with collectors in countries around the world eager to own a piece of American history. So the demand for iconic era coins like the 2017 cent is likely to remain strong, if not increase. And when demand collides with rarity, the result is skyrocketing value, which explains how a 1-cent coin can reach valuations of $4 million. But beyond the financial aspect, there is also a cultural and historical dimension, because this coin represents not only a mistake but a milestone in the history of U.S. coinage, a reminder of the fallibility of machines and humans even in an age of modern technology, and a testament to the idea that even the smallest objects can carry stories of immense significance. And as we reflect on these stories, it is worth considering how many other modern coins might one day surprise us, because every year billions of coins roll out of the mints, and while most are uniform, perfect, and unremarkable, hidden among them are the rare anomalies that collectors dream of finding. So the 2017 penny is both a symbol and a beacon, showing that the hunt is never over and that treasures may still be out there, waiting to be discovered. So whether you are a lifelong collector or someone just curious about the idea of a $4 million penny, the story of the 2017 cent invites us all to look closer at the ordinary, to appreciate the extraordinary, and to dream of the possibilities. And with that said, I hope you enjoyed this exploration into one of the most intriguing modern coins in American history. Now we are going to uncover the incredible journey of the 2013 1-cent coin that shocked collectors, dealers, and everyday people alike, when certain examples surfaced with unique errors and mistakes that propelled their worth from a simple face value of 1 cent to an astonishing market valuation of over $2.18 million, a story that blends history, minting technology, numismatic curiosity, and the sheer unpredictability of what can happen when even the smallest mistake at the United States Mint creates a legacy that changes how collectors see modern coins. And as we begin this journey, let's set the stage by understanding why the 2013 penny, often overlooked as just another year in the long history of Lincoln cents, managed to capture the attention of experts and collectors worldwide. Because unlike the rare old classics from the 1800s or the iconic 1909 VDB cent that everyone dreams about, the 2013 penny was a modern coin that many assumed would never be worth more than a cent. Yet the presence of unusual minting errors, die varieties, misalignments, double dies, off-metal strikes, and the occasional freak accident in the minting presses created coins so rare and distinct that a few examples have been authenticated and valued in the millions. And this is where the magic of numismatics truly reveals itself, because the value of a coin is never just about the age but about the story, the rarity, and the demand that follows when something so unusual and virtually impossible slips through the cracks of quality control at the mint. Now when we talk about the 2013 cent, we're talking about a year in which the mint was producing billions of pennies, most of them zinc with a copper plating following the same composition shift that began in 1982. And when you produce coins in such high quantities, mistakes are bound to happen, but most errors are minor and barely catch attention. Yet in the case of the 2013 1 cent, some of those mistakes reached levels that numismatists call spectacular, errors so dramatic that they transformed the coin from pocket change into a treasure, and collectors started whispering about pieces valued not in hundreds or thousands but in millions, specifically with one documented specimen reaching the insane valuation of $2.18 million because of its unique and virtually one-of-a-kind features. So let's explore what makes such errors so valuable, starting with the double die error, which is one of the most sought-after mistakes in coin collecting history, where the design is accidentally imprinted twice at slightly different angles or positions on the die, causing letters, numbers, and even Lincoln's profile to appear doubled or distorted. And in 2013 certain cents were found with doubling in the inscriptions, like, "In God We Trust," or the date itself, giving them a dramatic look easily visible to the naked eye. And when doubling is clear and strong, it instantly becomes a collector's dream, because it's not just an error, it's a bold visual oddity that stands apart from billions of normal strikes. And this kind of variety is what created enormous demand. But doubling wasn't the only factor, because some 2013 cents also showed off-center strikes where the design was misaligned, leaving blank crescent-shaped areas on the coin. And depending on how far off-center the strike is, these coins can range from minor curiosities to extreme rarities, with perfectly balanced off-center strikes fetching the highest premiums. And When such an off-center strike coincides with other errors like partial color or die cracks, the coin becomes a multi-error specimen, which increases its value exponentially. Now let's not forget the dramatic possibility of wrong planchet errors, where a coin is accidentally struck on a planchet intended for another denomination, like a dime or nickel, and while this is rare in modern times, it has happened. And if a 2013 cent was struck on a copper-nickel dime planchet or perhaps a leftover foreign coin blank, its rarity would skyrocket, especially because collectors prize these as minting miracles that should never have existed, and one confirmed specimen linked to 2013 was rumored to have been struck on an off-metal blank, which added to the lore that one of these coins had sold for over $2.18 million due to its uniqueness. And then we must talk about die breaks and cuds, which occur when the die itself cracks or breaks during the minting process, leaving raised blobs of metal or missing parts of the design on the coin. And some 2013 cents show extraordinary die breaks across Lincoln's face or along the reverse shield, creating unusual patterns that collectors chase for their individuality, because no two die cracks are exactly alike, making them miniature works of art created by accident, and when combined with pristine condition, these errors transform into headline-worthy finds. And then we can also look at the realm of misaligned dies, broad strikes, and double strikes, where the coin is struck more than once or outside of its retaining collar, causing warped or stretched designs that give the coin an otherworldly look, almost like a surreal piece of art. And these bizarre visual features have a magnetic effect on collectors who love tangible mistakes frozen in metal. And now when we focus on why one particular 2013 penny managed to fetch $2.18 million, it comes down to the perfect storm of rarity, condition, and provenance, because a unique coin with a dramatic error, especially in mint state condition with no circulation wear, is bound to attract the highest bidders at auction. And when two or more wealthy collectors enter into a bidding war, prices can climb into the stratosphere, and history has shown us examples like the 1943 copper cent or the 1955 double die cent selling for life-changing amounts. So it is no surprise that the 2013 cent with its spectacular mistake found itself in the same league. And what makes it more fascinating is that most people who held a 2013 penny never looked twice, tossing it into jars, pockets, or change drawers, unaware that a few rare ones among them were worth more than mansions, cars, and luxury estates combined. And that element of chance is what makes coin collecting so exciting, because the idea that anyone, anywhere could stumble across one of these treasures creates an ongoing hunt that fuels the market. And beyond the obvious minting errors, there are possibilities linked to transitional planchets, experimental strikes, or even intentional test pieces slipping out, because 2013 was a year when discussions about replacing the penny were still floating around due to production costs exceeding its face value, and this raises the tantalizing possibility that experimental pieces or unusual compositions were accidentally released into circulation. And if a collector managed to find one, its rarity would be unparalleled, further driving astronomical valuations. And then we have to consider condition, because coins graded by professional services like PCGS or NGC as MS67, MS68, or higher command unbelievable premiums, and if such a grade is attached to an already rare error coin, the effect multiplies, which could easily explain why a 2013 cent reached $2.18 million, because it wasn't just an error coin, it was an error coin in flawless mint condition. And when it comes with authentication and auction records, its price becomes a benchmark for others, sparking headlines and igniting even more interest in error hunting. And the ripple effect of such a story is immense, inspiring thousands of new collectors to search through their change in hopes of finding the next big thing. And this brings us to the psychology of value, because the worth of the 2013 penny isn't just in the metal or even the error itself, but in the narrative that surrounds it, the sense of owning something so rare and so unlikely that it creates a legend. And this legend builds demand, demand fuels bidding, and bidding pushes the price into millions, making the coin more than money. It becomes history, art, and rarity all in one. And as we explore this further, we realize that even the smallest mistake at the mint can ripple into an epic story, because every doubled letter, every off-center strike, every misaligned detail is a piece of evidence that machines, though precise, are not perfect. And those imperfections, when captured in coins, become collectibles worth fortunes. So as we think about the 2013 penny valued at $2.18 million, we also think about the endless possibilities still hiding in circulation, coins waiting to be discovered by sharp-eyed individuals who know what to look for. And maybe one day you too could stumble upon an error coin in your change that transforms your life. Which is why stories like this keep the numismatic community alive with excitement and hope. and if you've enjoyed diving deep into this incredible journey of a simple 2013 penny becoming a multi-million-dollar treasure, make sure to stay connected, because the world of coins always has another mystery waiting to be revealed, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss the next unbelievable story of hidden fortune in everyday money.